This has become Jack's personal therapy session. Hello, and welcome to Alchemist After Dark. It's just me, your boy LJ from For Me. But this, we're going a little bit deeper because transformation does not have to look too good to be true. We're going to go behind the mask, past the grind, and into the heart of what the journey of entrepreneurship and just basically life in 2025 is. We are kicking off this first chapter of my revamped podcast with a friend of mine, Mr. Jack Dillon.
Hello.
How you doing, Jack?
I'm doing pretty well.
Jack is from Long Island, and he is a friend of mine from Blue Flamingo, Kava and Kraut and Bar. And this is actually our second episode. We recorded one last week, but I had some tech issues, meaning my other phone broke and couldn't export the video. So we said, you know what? Let's do it again.
We had such a good time last time, we figured why not do it again?
Hell yeah. So before we get there, we'll talk a little bit about Jack and what's going on with him. We're going to start with a little cocktail. So this is a cocktail, Jack, that I've created called the Stag King's Elixir. Oh, basically it's Sassenach Wild Scottish Gin, which I'm not a big gin fan. You like gin?
Big gin guy.
Big gin guy. And normally I'm like a whiskey guy, but I love the TV show Outlander, and Sam Heughan, who's the main character, this is his gin. It's got gin, a little lemon juice, lime, honey, elderflower, and then some nice little piece of cedar, I think, right on the top. Cheers.
Cheers. How about that?
To you and me.
Ooh, yeah.
Is that all right?
Very good. Compliments the gin well.
Yeah, so it's a little tang. I like a little tang.
I like it a
so
lot.
Probably put some more lime juice in there.
Is there lemon or
There's lemon and lime.
Yeah,
And then some honey as well.
that goes well with the gin.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Thanks. He could be lying.
No,
I don't
I'm
know.
a fucking huge fan. Gin and lemon juice or gin and lime juice is a great combo.
Yeah.
You got me talking already.
I know. And the thing is that I'm not a big gin guy because gin always makes me think of college. Oh, what happened?
I'm just so excited.
He's so excited. In college, why are you laughing?
This is so ridiculous fucking thing to happen. We're going to call if I'm drinking on tape.
We'll put it in the blooper reel,
Yeah,
my
right.
friend. Don't worry. In college, I used to drink, if I ever drank gin, it was like bottom shelf and it just makes me think of like gin and tonics and like
Yep.
throwing up. So I've never actually really had good gin. So here we are. Do you have a favorite kind of gin?
I'm a big Hendrix guy. Hendrix, actually, gin has so many flavors. Hendrix, I think, tastes good. I think there's certain liquors that you can't really taste the difference in quality. This is a controversial opinion, but to me, vodka's vodka. Tequila, you can notice. Gin, you can notice. Rum, you can notice. You already disagree with the vodka part.
No, I agree, actually.
Yeah. Gin, I think gin it's less of a sliding scale like other liquors where it's either good or bad. There's so much complexities to it that it's none are bad, none are good. Yeah, Hendrix, Tanqueray.
Really?
Yeah.
I've had some bad gin, I guess. But when's the last time you had bottom shelf gin? When have you ever walked into? Oh,
I've definitely ordered. I just said, give me a gin and soda with lime and just whatever the house gin is fine.
just to kind of give you guys a little bit of like, why did we change the name? So when I created For Me a podcast, it was right after I closed my gym and right after I went through a breakup, which I've talked about on the podcast. And I was just needed to process. So I figured, hey, why not do it in front of a microphone? So now that I launched the Alchemist Blueprint, which is my 7-day mindset program, I felt like I wanted to get a little bit more intentional and go deeper with the podcast. And it's called Alchemy After Dark because we're going to have a drink. We're going to talk through and maybe get a little vulnerable. So Jack, why don't you tell the lovely viewers at home a little bit about you, where you're from, and give me the lowdown.
Yeah, I guess my short version is a 27-year-old Floridian now, born and raised on Long Island. So I'm a New Yorker at heart. Moved down here about a year and a half ago. Had a remote 9-to-5 job. Once COVID hit, we went fully remote. And then after 2 years, it was like we realized we were never really going back in the office. So there was already a wave of people that left and went remote. And then after 2 years, like around that time when like the dust settled, I'm like, boss, like, we ever going back in the office? He's like, we don't know. Probably not, between you, me, and the wall. I'm like, between you, me, and the wall. Can I get the fuck out of here? He's between you, me, and the wall. Give me a second to look into it. And then he comes back like a week later. He goes, just don't say anything. Take off. So my lips are sealed. I'm in Florida now.
Minus sharing this on a podcast.
Yes. I mean, I think that dust is settled now. So I like to think I'm valuable to the company and that if, it's okay where I'm at.
No, I'm not going to put any seeds of doubt in your mind about that.
Okay. Okay.
Jack and I met at Blue Flamingo, which is part of this Kava community that him and I have both become a part of. And we ended up bonding over the fact that I had just closed a gym and was really passionate about marketing for gyms, specifically my gym. And that's what he did. Can you tell us a little bit about what your day job and your night job is?
Yeah. So I'm a project manager for a healthcare IT company. So effectively, I make sure that the sales that are going on in the healthcare sales company, like the software that the doctors and nurses log into, we sell those softwares. So I'm like the internal, I say the air traffic controller of just making sure that all the right people have the right deals and the paperwork's in the right hands. That's my day job stuff. On the sides, I've been swinging for the fences in entrepreneurship for years. I've done everything. I've probably done, at the list, I've done door-to-door solar sales. I've done website building. I tried solar panel cleaning once as a service. I think I told you I had that little putt thing in my room that I'll charge like a quarter for my family to come into and putt. So I've always had the bug. Now I'm in video editing. I'm in content creation. So that's, I guess, to route back to how we connect. I started out in content creation and video editing, trying to find a service, trying to find a niche. I was business savvy enough to know that I do want to find a niche to work in. I've always been into fitness. And you see a lot of these micro gyms that you're in, their content, their social stuff is terrible. It's just the owner walking in and just pointing a camera. And anyone with a day's worth of work can make that stuff better. So my model was send that footage to me, be a little bit better at recording. I'll tell you what to actually shoot. Send it to me. We'll stitch it up. I'll make sure we follow the right trends and social trends to get you awareness, get new people in your door. So it's a remote video editing service for fitness gyms and like micro gyms like that. And that's when I met you. And you're like, yeah, I am completely in the micro gym space. I'm like, oh, hold on. Can I ask you 45 questions about what I'm doing and what you would think as a business owner in your perspective?
Yeah. You just said that's what your offer was. Are you still doing it or are you kind of shifting gears?
I'm in the middle of a transition right now. I'm definitely shifting gears.
Cool.
Shortly after trying to edit other people's videos, I realized these guys all fucking suck. It's tough to instruct people how to record because it's such a hands-on thing. Let me just do the actual recording, control the full end-to-end process. So that's where I'm at now. Now I'm going out shooting on my own. I'm starting to transition into the hospitality industry, which I find, one, resonates with me, and two, there's a massive market for, especially in South Florida. I think a ChatGPT'd how many restaurants were in South Florida from like Jupiter down to Miami, fucking 30,000. So if I can get, and honestly, even if you go to the Miami restaurants, you go on their Instagrams, the best of the best restaurants, maybe 1 out of 20 have high quality social content. So I think it's an underfound market. So that's what I'm doing now is I'm walking into restaurants and just making content for them. I'm doing it for free at this point and just saying, this is what I made for you. Here it is. It's reps for me because I know I just need experience to get to that level. And then at some point, I'd like to monetize that and be the go-to guy in South Florida for restaurant videography, specifically short form social content.
I love that. And that's what we were just talking about too, with like me taking what I started with for me and massaging it into Alchemist After Dark. And I don't think what's so funny, a lot of times with entrepreneurs or people who are grinding like we do, they don't show the middle, the messy middle.
Yeah.
And I think the cool thing about Jack and me is he was there when I was birthing this Alchemist blueprint idea. And I thought I first wanted to do like I was going to be a life coach, but then it was going to be an app. And then I just kind of got clearer and clearer. So it's cool on your end to see that transition. And guys, it's okay. It's actually wonderful if you start an idea and you start to get drawn to something else. And so you have to iterate. This is what we'd say in writing is don't be afraid to unalive your baby. Because sometimes we get so attached. We're like, oh, I have this idea and it's really great. And we get so attached to it, and then the market either is not responding, or you just are called to something else. You got to be able to let that go. It doesn't mean anything other than you're continuing to improve and re-engage and try something new.
That's 100% agree. I think you just said something so massive there that you have to, what did you say? But you're just saying something about like
the alcohol is hitting him already.
Something, yeah, right. You already gave me loosey goosey. Something about testing the market. You were saying that you don't know what's going to work. You just keep on trying shit out. I think that's the biggest message to entrepreneurs. It took me fucking months to figure out, or I guess years to figure out, is that everyone thinks they have the idea. I've had the idea fucking 30 times. Say this, it just makes sense. It's going to work. You put it out there. It doesn't really bite. The idea of testing and just trying shit out with complete detachment of what's going to work and just seeing what sticks relentlessly and throwing as much spaghetti at the wall as you can, that's the easiest way to figure out what works. So to your point, trying a bunch of things and just getting a sense for it and feeling it and smelling it, that's the quickest way to success, I think.
I agree. And I am in the stage now where I've been testing ads for the past month with Alchemist Blueprint. And I actually made a decision yesterday or 2 days ago that what I wasn't getting any traction for on my ads on Meta were entrepreneurs. Have not gotten any traction with women whatsoever. What I have gotten a lot of traction are men. So I said, you know what? Right now, I'm just going to dial in, and the high performing ads that I have, I'm going to make a couple new versions of them and really gear this towards men. And it actually was like a light bulb that went off in my head, because I've noticed in this kind of iteration of my entrepreneurship, there's this zone that I get in, and I guess you would call it flow. But when I feel like really into something, I have this fire in my belly and I'm just like focused and I'm excited. Whenever I feel that way, I'm like, I'm onto something. Because when I first started writing the Alchemist Blueprint and things started pouring out of me, that's how I felt. So the other night when I was like, oh, wow, okay, go this way.
Yep.
It was a little bit like maybe a spiritual nudge or even just intuition saying,
Spiritual nudge is a great way to put it.
Go this way. And it's been really exciting.
Yep. Totally agree. Yeah, I think it's an intuition thing. Do you feel like it was tough for you to smell out or have the intuition on what resonates best? If this is your path right now, is this for you? Is this, oh, this is it? Or are you still seeing if it's going to stick to the wall?
I think it is sticking to the wall, and I believe in it so much. And I think that's where there are a couple things you could do as being an entrepreneur. We can do a kind of a cash grab thing where we can literally be like, okay, what is the market that needs to be served the most? And let's figure out how to serve them as quickly and efficiently as possible. And that's totally a valid lane for anybody exploring anything.
Yeah.
But for me, at this point, if I'm feeling so passionate about it that like I have to do this, then there's going to be somebody that connects with it. And I'm finding out that they are. Now, if I was sitting here talking to you and I hadn't sold one program, I've sold 20 now, and my program's been out a month, I think I'm onto something. So for me, it's just what in alignment with like my higher self do I want to be doing? Because I have to feel passionate about it. And I know there are some people out there, business owners, who they don't care. They want to buy a franchise or they want to do something that they don't feel anything for. I can't work like that.
I know. I agree. I totally agree. I think there's a lot of people who say that. It's like there are like the Chinese billionaires who are in the concrete industry. They're not passionate about concrete. They just know they can make money off concrete. That's the minority, I think. I'm totally with you where there's so much to say that if you have a deep passion for something, yes, it's not always going to resonate with the market, but you have a much better fucking chance. There's way more likelihood that if you are truly passionate about something and you say, I love this, I would, especially the part where you say, I would use this service, I would pay for this, that I think is the biggest indicator if something's going to work. So,
and I think too, as you're exploring this, if you're resonating with something and it's like the kind of frequency you're on, it's naturally going to attract other people on that same frequency to you. And to your point, I wish I had something like the Alchemist Blueprint. And what I was realizing is that right now, and this may be controversial, but I think it's objectively true. If you are a white, straight man, and I am gay, there is not really anything for you right now to feel empowered because of the way right now in our society, men in particular are basically told from a very young age that they're evil and they're responsible for all the ills in the world. I think there's an undercurrent of men especially wanting to feel good about themselves and strong and empowered.
I agree.
And there's nothing that's speaking to that market right now. So I don't know if that's controversial or not to say that, but that's what I'm interested in because I'm a man and I felt like it's almost like masculinity has been, everything's toxic. There's not a lot of healthy masculinity out there or expressions of that where it's about your honor, your values, your courage, your strength, your mastery. And I'm just excited to be like, oh, wow, this is what the frequency I'm vibrating on. And I feel like that is what's going to call my client to me.
I think you nailed it. I think that's exactly what it is.
So actually, I wanted to double back to something you said. What was your first idea when you were a kid?
I've had a lot of them actually. As far as business, it was a little like, it was like a putt, like 6-foot mat that there's no obstacles, just like a grass turf, like 1.5 feet long, and a little hole. So just put on the grass and our family liked golf. I was never a massive golfer. I could do a lot of things, but one thing I can't do is golf. That gene skipped me. But yeah, I had a little putt thing in my room and I would just have a little golf club and tell my family to come in and use the putt thing. So
Now, was this you realizing you were like, there's a market for this?
I don't know. Definitely not a market for it. I was some guys.
Your family likes golf, right? So it's like it could have been like tennis.
Yeah, I think in that specific situation, I don't think it was a market. I think that was because there's been plenty of things in my entrepreneurial journeys where I just think it's cool and I'm going to do it. But you're learning that you have to find also what the market wants. So that was an example of I just think it's cool. I'm like saying, come in, give me your quarter. And I made 75 cents a day.
Okay.
So I actually did pretty good.
So this was like you forced people to give you
100%,
money.
yeah.
So you like the government taxing people.
You could say that. I'm one of the good guys, though.
So my first entrepreneur idea, there was a little TV show by the name of Sailor Moon that I was really into when I was a kid. And what I found out was that the merchandise for it, there was not a lot of in the United States. So my idea, and I like proposed this to my grandfather, I think I was 11. I was like, hey, I'm going to buy the merchandise that I can find locally, and then I'm going to resell it online to people who'd need it. Because,
genius idea.
Yeah, but I ended up just buying the stuff and kept it all for myself because I didn't really know how to get to that next step where I was like, as selling people. So I had to start, but then I was like, no, I'm just going to play with these Barbie dolls myself.
But even still, right there, you took the first step. And it's once they're there, yes, you hit whatever roadblock you ran into. Like, how the fuck do I get rid of this? But who knows how many years or ventures it would take for you to even get to that part where you're like, because at least now, next time you try to sell whatever you're selling, you're like, I got to make sure I know who the hell I'm selling to.
Exactly.
I think every step's a learning experience.
And I think that's one of the cool things that I'm learning right now is I'm excited about the space that I'm in because I get to do a lot of different things. And I think that's the fun part about being an entrepreneur is you could say in a negative way, jack of all trades, master of none, but I'm getting pretty good at the 4 or 5 things that I'm doing.
Yeah, I agree.
I just wanted to cut out the actual brick and mortar piece. When was the moment like for you that, because right now you're transitioning into that sort of this new lane. Was there like a moment or something specific that happened that made you shift gears?
I'm accelerating so much and my foot is on the gas so much that by the half hour, I'm realizing the directions that I need to change. Whether it's just a tiny shift of the steering wheel or saying, got to change this road. So I'm learning things, by the hour. I'd say when I transitioned out of fitness out of my remote editing for fitness into my in-person editing for restaurants, it was probably a combination of both of those just didn't resonate with me entirely. So both the in-person or both the remote editing and the gym stuff. So the gym stuff, I realized it's cool. I'm into fitness, but one, a lot of these micro gyms are corporate owned. So it's tougher to get to the decision. It's tougher to get to the decision maker. Restaurants, there's 100 one-off restaurants, even in a half-mile radius that I could find. For remote editing, that's the obvious thing where it's tough to, if you're putting your name behind something, you want it to be high quality. That's just how my brain operates too. So I would need the best of the best gym owners to record the best of the best footage in order for me to turn it into something good. But I feel much more comfortable knowing that I can record something by myself and say that shot's good. And if there's one thing that I don't like about it, and I say that shot, I need this to make this video work, but it just doesn't ring right with me. I could just scratch the whole thing and go to a different restaurant and do whatever I want. Having that full end-to-end process was one of the biggest reasons why I transitioned out of the remote editing into the in-person.
And speaking of micro gym owners, being one myself, there's a real hesitancy to let anybody come in from the outside and tell you how to run your business better. And for whatever reason in the fitness industry, the egos are so massive, and you'll end up coming up with a couple different groups of people. There's the, I really liked working out, so I figured open a gym sort of bro. Then there's the, hey, I got in with this, was really hot, and I want to make money kind of bro. And I think that there's a real hesitancy for people to like understand the value of their social media. Even now, it's 2025. And they don't necessarily see that as something they should pay for somebody else to do. Now, you and I know that it's only a value add. I think one of the reasons why I was able to keep going for even 6 years was because of my marketing, editing, videos, all the stuff that I was doing. But I'll tell you, I'll look some of this sometimes at Instagram. I'm like, what is this?
Have you been living under a rock? You have to know that Instagram, especially Instagram, yes, you want to post on it. You want to post on TikTok. You want to post on YouTube Shorts. You want to post on Instagram, obviously. Snapchat, Spotlight, every platform. I think LinkedIn does Shorts now.
Yeah, but even if you're local, though, like TikTok doesn't matter because that is for a global audience. And so you were saying, I think originally like Instagram was the place to be. That's where people look you up. They want to see social proof. So that's the first thing they're going to do is go on Instagram and they're going to check you out. But there's also an argument to be made that what if they go on Instagram and your stuff is too good? And then you end up, you're like a mom and pop shop, but your stuff looks really professional. There sometimes can be a weird disconnect there.
You think so?
Yeah. So for me, sometimes when you see those ads on Facebook or Instagram that are just like one shot and it's a dude, he's, hey, what's up? I have a gym. I want to get you challenged. You connect with that. And I think sometimes some of these like more well-produced ads can feel a little bit impersonal. And I speak from my own experience with that of I would cut an ad sometimes and be like, this looks like corporate-y. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to...
I do. I'm not sure if I agree, though.
It's okay. Yeah. I love this. It's where we're here to disagree. So, yeah, tell me why I'm wrong.
Corporate, something can be too corporate. Something can be too, like, your annual HR video-ish. I get that. I think that I don't think there's an upper limit to how professional you can make a video if it's your own brand. And if you want to be the I guess in some businesses, there's a market where you can find your niche as like the underdog, underpriced, you can get great value, but we're not going to charge as much. But I think for most businesses, you want to be seen as professional as possible. And even if you think that your gym if you have some idea where if a person walks in having this vision of this perfect gym based on the ad they see, and they walk in, say, this is the gym, that might be true, but in my opinion, that would just have the owner step up and elevate his gym's experience to match that vibe. So I think that's a net positive.
I don't know if, but and this is interesting though, because we're talking about even what I'm going through right now is we're talking about the ad into the funnel. Does the ad match what the idea is in the funnel? That then does that match the product? And so there's so many different layers going on there.
I say just make the product as good as possible and match the amazing experience of the ad.
I think in a perfect world, I agree with you, just probably in this sort of social media world. But I guess just thinking through it a little bit deeper, I guess what I was hitting at is things like, I feel like marketing shifted in the past maybe 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Because I feel like content used to be aspirational and now it's like authentic and relatable. And so I guess maybe that's where I'm seeing it too, is that I think what I liked sexy stuff. And so the videos that I shot were like, people shirts off, this, that, or the other. And I may not have attracted the people that were the most loyal customers because they may have felt too intimidated. Whereas with Orange Theory, they actually have somebody who works at the front desk. They try to hire somebody that is average looking or slightly overweight so that when they come in, they're like, oh, she can do it, I can do it. I'm not saying that's the case for everybody. They just hired one of our friends to work there and she's very pretty. So that doesn't apply to her. But yeah.
You are right about that. I think there's a lot of truth to the idea that you can also, to counter my own point, if you find a profitable market or niche saying that, all right, my product is at this user experience. And as far as grade of quality, we're finding this balance between high quality professionalism and like price approachability. If you think that's the path, then you say, as long as everything is cohesive along this middle ground, that's how I'm going to start making cash, then go make cash. So I don't disagree with that at all.
I think too, like when I was as a content creator myself, it would really stress me out when it does stress me out when I see people who just point and shoot and very little minimal editing and they got 100,000 views. And I know we're jumping from like a professional product to like personal branding, but I like to edit stuff. And so I've had friends that are very successful TikTokers and their stuff isn't very well edited.
I agree.
And so I think there's something maybe there with the authenticity versus aspirational.
I think you're so right, because I'm learning that too. Like my Instagram feed is full of just high quality professional videos. Specifically, it's a lot of like drinks being made, restaurant footage. And then you go to their profile, because a strategic thing to do is to see that page and see what videos get the most views.
And take that idea and make it your own.
Correct. You might have 7 cinematic videos of a drink in slow motion, but then it's just like the video that pops off the most is just like the front desk person. Maybe it's a cute girl or whatever, but it's, oh, look, it's our favorite customer. And then they point at the camera. And that one clip, simple as that, fucking 300,000 views. I'm like, I could do that. That's the easiest thing in the world. So yeah, that's a good example of always going back to the drawing board and pivoting by the hour.
When I first started making content again, and I was trying to pivot my following, I was making video after video talking about mindset and this, that, or the other. The video that popped off for me was about a sound effect used in Wicked sounded like a sound effect in Fortnite. Viral. And I don't care about that. So it's finding that intersection of what you're passionate about, what's potentially going to make you some money and be successful. It's like, there's so many different factors to that. I want to feel good about this. I want to be excited about the content I'm creating. But if nobody watches it, then it's just me jerking off by myself.
Exactly it. You can make this great social content if we're staying in the world of like content. You can make this great stuff, and you think, like, how many times have we made something that says this is fucking golden, this is perfect, and then it flops, and then something we didn't expect to do, whether it's a simple edit, no edit, just one take, whatever, pops off, and you're like, what is going on here?
And I think it's like we're always chasing our tails too of, oh, what's the formula? And it's like there's courses and courses. And the only thing that I'm really learning is like you have 3 seconds. So if you either hook them in 3 seconds or you don't hook them in 3 seconds. And I'm guilty of the millennial pause. So like where like take a second before I start talking. And so there is it's weird. It's like there is some sort of scientific piece of it. Like when we talk about pop music and how Max Martin kind of figured out there's like a formula for popular music. But then there's that like spark of life, that little ether that just has to take over at some point. Well, we're talking about our success a lot and how we got there. But I do want to take a little bit of a detour and go a little bit deeper with a segment called The Failure Files. ChatGPT came up with that. I talked a lot about it on my podcast when I first relaunched it, about like why I closed my gym. And I said the truth, but there's a lot of shame attached with feeling like, oh, I failed. So I want to see first from you, what is maybe a situation that you considered to be a failure that you were able to, over time, perceive it in a different way and it became a catalyst for growth or future success for you?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this. I think that I wouldn't say there's one individual event that I failed through, but I think there's a lot of micro failures, and I've been aware enough to know how to turn those into lessons learned. Honestly, it's 2025. If you watch one YouTube short or spend 5 minutes on any kind of motivational TikTok or something, you should know that every failure is a success, unless you're a complete bimbo. Like anything that you do wrong, I think by now everyone's first thought should be, all right, what did I do wrong here? What could I be doing better? Maybe if you're 5 years old and you're a little Timmy and then the girl you have a crush on is now going to play soccer with the other guy. Maybe if you're 5 years old, then yes, you can just go mope. But like, to me, every single micro failure, whether it's a wrong direction I took in traffic, all right, maybe I should start paying attention, especially on this, maybe on weekends when I'm not as locked in. I need to start paying attention when I'm driving more. Or just major events, whether it's a failed business. I think you should start paying attention, and everyone should be very aware of the failures they have.
Let's talk about that, right? Because you're saying something as if it is the most obvious thing in the world. And I agree with you that your point is dead on, but not everybody actually understands that. People don't necessarily want to put themselves out there because they don't want to be seen and or perceived as a failure. And when you do something like open and close a business, right? I don't see it as a failure personally, like deep down, but I remember I told I was at a barbershop, saw an old friend, and he was like, it was, you learn the most from your failures. And I was like, I don't know this guy really. And he just, oh, you sold the gym? No, I closed it. I'm doing this now. Ah, you learn the most from your failures. So I think there is still that perception that if you switch gears or this side or the other, like people want to label it as a failure.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. It's also how you frame it. I've learned a lot. It's about the way you perceive something is the way the world perceives something.
Oh yeah, for
If you
sure.
look at it as a failure. Yeah, I just had this gym, didn't work out too well. I just closed it down. Oh man, I'm so sorry. Hey, you'll get back up. Don't. Hey, every failure is a success. But if you say, yeah, gym didn't work out, but also turns out no one gives a fuck about this particular niche in this particular city. So now I know to do this. People are going to say, oh, good shit. All right, now make sure you go do that. So I think it's a lot about how you perceive it yourself, and then that's how the world perceives it.
I agree. And I think too, my story about it, because your story is what your belief is about the situation, which inevitably ends up being true because it's what out in front of you. So my story about it has changed a lot, but I think what I've gotten down to is I just wasn't passionate about fitness. And when I first wanted to open a gym in 2018, I was a manager of a CrossFit gym. I'd been in this community for a really long time. And I think that version of me just had so many ideas that I felt like the people I was working for could have do better. But I can't tell you now why I opened a CrossFit gym initially and then had to change it to a group fitness gym, more global. I don't know if at that point in my life, I wanted to like prove that I could, or that I felt rudderless, because I had come from acting, and that's what I went to school for, acting, theater, writing. And I don't think I had the confidence that I needed to have to make it in that world, because it's a very harsh, mean world. And I think I wasn't like fully aware of, I think I was aware of my sort of insecurities, but I didn't really want to face them. So I think opening the gym, I faced a lot of insecurity about, can I do this? But I also felt like it was something that I knew. So it was like, I had worked in this business for about 6, 7, 8 years. So I was like, I can do this. But I didn't have the passion. And what's interesting is that the past 6 months, I'm like, oh my God, I am so passionate about this. And I'm 38. And so it's taken me a while. Everyone's got their own path and their own journey. You might not figure that out, but I know what it feels like now to be like, I'm really passionate about this, but I don't regret it, because everything that I've learned is making me do what I'm doing now faster, better, smarter. So it absolutely set me up for success. So I'm actually really grateful for the experience. But what I would say is that you got to listen to your intuition. And if you feel really passionate about it, but I don't know if people know how to listen to their intuition.
One, I think you're right that you have to listen to your intuition and almost detach yourself from any either ego or emotional attachment to what you think works. If you if you notice that your passions and your directions change by the week, just ride that until you find something that sticks. Same thing with like morning routines. You can watch 100 YouTube videos on morning routines, how to make sure get up at this time, do this, do that. But the easiest and most sustainable morning routine is to say, I'm going to do what works for me now. And if in 10 days or if in a day, I realize that I can't drink 2 liters of water in the morning, or wake up at this time and do a half hour of work or 10 pages a day, that might work for a day, or it might work for 6 months. but let yourself let go of that if it's not working. And then if that's your frame, just going with what works for you, that's the most sustainable path to success.
So, what's so interesting is I had Jack and I take this, I think it's called like my human DNA, like a personality test. And one of the things that it said about, because I think we had a similar type, there's like 12 personalities. One thing that it said was that we're the kind of people that are comfortable and make sense of the world by engaging with something and then disengaging, and then going something else and disengaging. And so your whole life up to about 30 is you engaging and disengaging. And people like us are made to feel like there's something wrong with that. And I think the voice that I had in my head was someone when I was younger, it said, you never stick with anything. You just go to the next thing. But I think that I'm realizing that's okay, because that's just how I am. I get really engaged with something, I'm full force, and then I got to pull myself out of it and be like, is this really for me? And then I'm comfortable with shifting gears. So I think you and I are a little bit unique in that, and you guys can tell us if, in the comments, if that's how you relate to it. But
yeah, I think you're totally fucking right.
So what it basically says is that from 0 to 30, people like you and me will engage and disengage, engage and disengage. Then from about 30 to 50, we'll actually remove ourselves and we'll be more observational. And when we come back down to earth at 50, that is when we will actually provide the most value.
I believe that.
Because the way that you and I, like, philosophically and motivationally understand, will be like teachers for other people. And I feel like that's who I'm turning into, is this kind of, I don't know if it's a philosopher, but definitely a spiritualist when it comes to how I handle business. And what I'm actually really passionate about is what we're doing right now. It's just like talking through and like the why behind things and how to understand it better.
Let me ask if we're going wise old owl mode, here is something that I cannot grapple with. I like to think I'm good at understanding the world and eventually figuring things out myself. Between you being the wall and everyone watching right now, I have so much trouble when I find a new direction, switching gears, because I feel like it makes me look unstable and a lot of, Jack's is on to his next thing. Because we know people like that. Their Instagram bio changes every week, or they call and they say they're on this new thing. I hate being that guy. Perfect example. I'm debating changing my entire Instagram profile to hospitality videography, because that's like a new shift. Like, to me, in my head, if I'm switching, that's it. You can't change. And I think I'm right to some degree that you do want to have some kind of stable image. I think you do want to have an image of cohesion and professionalism. I don't think it's a crazy thought. But yeah, it's something I'm going back and forth with literally my whole life.
It's so great that you brought that up, because I've struggled with that a lot. I didn't know what I wanted to do my entire 20s. I was auditioning here, I was writing there, I was getting into fitness, I was working in marketing, and I put a lot of pressure on myself. And I had a conversation with my mother a couple months ago where she was like, "You're a late bloomer." And I got so mad. I was like, "What do you mean, Mom?" And she was like, "By your age, I had already had 2 kids and was well into my career." And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I opened and closed a business. I got through COVID. Like, I have become a totally different person throughout that, but now I'm going on to something else. And I think that situation allowed me to be okay and be like, who cares? So what I would say to you is, who cares what other people perceive about that? You're a passionate person, and you're gonna change your mind about something. You're gonna find something that works even better. The whole goal is for you to find what lights you up and what is successful for you. I don't think it's the same thing as somebody who is not very serious or grounded in themselves and is just like dipping their toes in. I feel like when you get into something, you go hard in the paint with it.
I do.
Yeah. And I do as well. And also, who cares? What is the worry that someone's going to be like, "Oh, Jack's not a serious person"?
There's the worry that sounds right, and there's the worry that the real worry. What sounds right is, for my potential clients, I want to be seen as the guy, and not that they look through my feed and say, "All right, he's doing this, then he's doing that." The people who've known me for a while, who like potential customers, say, "Wasn't he doing fitness 2 months ago?" But I think the real worry is the people who know me, like my close friends and family, the people who are part of my broader circle. I don't want to be seen as a guy who's just jumping from business to business like that. So I guess it's an identity thing,
I love that.
reputation thing.
Love this. This is perfect. So, what is the identity that you perceive that people have? So, when you say a guy like that, what does a guy like that mean?
The guy who is always trying new things and is like committing himself to that to the point where you don't take him seriously when he picks a direction. That specifically.
So, it's like the boy who cried wolf.
A little bit.
Yeah. So, what you're saying is that you have a belief that if you change up your career path or what you're creating in terms of business and you switch it up too often, that people will not take you seriously. Interesting. Do you take yourself seriously?
I do. But I also think that I know that if I'm on the same thing for a year or two, that I'd take myself more seriously. I don't take myself as seriously because I know I might switch off of fucking restaurants in a month. That's the fear.
I think you're projecting, and I'm becoming a psychologist now. I think you're projecting your inner belief onto yourself and saying it's other people. I think you think about yourself that you aren't serious, like you just said.
If I'm really defending my position here, I think there's some truth to that, but I also think it's logical for other people to say that. I don't think it's, well, Jack, you're projecting, so that's not what other people think. I think it's not a crazy thought to think that there are certain people in your life who, if you say, by the way, he's going to be an airline pilot, you say, oh, no shit. Versus other people in your lives where you might hear, he's going to be an airline pilot. Oh, Bill's going to be an airline pilot now? Okay. Like, that's a legitimate reputation.
Yeah, no, I agree. But at the same time, you're bringing up like random stories about Bill being a pilot. There's two things that are happening here, right? You're placing judgment on yourself, and then you're assuming other people are placing judgment on you.
Correct and correct.
My question would be, we are always going to be the hardest on ourselves. And I think we talked about this on our first go around. If you are happy exploring what you're exploring and you're picking up skills along the way and you're learning something new and you're refining, you're going through your own alchemy to get to where you want to go, then it all have been worth it, right? But why do other people matter in terms of what they think about you? Because you got yourself that you're judging and then you're projecting onto other people that they're judging you.
Good question, dude. My mind's going 7 different directions right now.
I love it. We're having a little bit of gin. We're getting real deep.
Yeah, you are getting deep. I think that there's part of me that says, I don't care what other people think. I don't respect opinions of 99% of the people in my life because they don't want to go where I want to go. Literally, I came to this conclusion in the last few years. I'm like, all right, everyone's an idiot. I know where I need to go. I'm going to work hard to get there.
And are you doing that?
Yeah. But there's also the part of me, which I think is a crazy thought, that the people in my lives, the close ones, my friends and my family, my broader family, my good friends, I guess you could say that if they're good friends and they're good family, they should support me. But they're a real part of my lives, and my reputation matters to them, and they're an integrated part of my lives. So I don't think it's trivial to be perceived in a good light by them.
I don't think it's trivial. You mean to be not perceived in a good light, right? Like,
to be perceived as professional, I guess, is my ego.
Has anybody said this to you?
Yeah, I had one of my close friends. Once I said I was in video editing. She's like, you like that in like those TV shows where like the person is at the store and asks for like the manager, and the guy just spins around and puts a hat on. He's like, I'm the manager now. So it's, yeah, that was like a little like light dig that.
What does she do?
He's in pharmaceutical sales.
Listen, part of this journey, and if you guys are watching this out here and you are wanting to be an entrepreneur, Jack is highlighting, I think, the biggest thing that we deal with. And I'm just going to say what I think, which is that our judgment on ourselves, how we think other people perceive us, or what we take other people's lighthearted jokes to mean something about us. You are a creative, and this is what lights you up. It may not look like anybody else's path, but it's your path. And I know you, so I can vouch for you. I respect the hell out of you because you're always trying something different and you're all in with it. So if somebody in your life were to look at you and say, you're a late bloomer, I would probably say that person doesn't really know you very well or doesn't really know what you're doing. And they may not be able to understand that because, especially from parents and other people, like you said, all your friends who stayed in the hometown and like doing whatever, they've never had to really consider that. So they're going to have a completely different perspective of you, but you're living it.
That's true. That's a good point. Another way I look at it is that, like, also, if I care as much as I'm saying I care about other people's opinion, we're going to boil it down to what's really happening. Is whatever a side effect of people thinking whatever they're thinking, if I'm going to get to where I want to go, if I'm going to have the life I want in 4, 7, 2 years, is this side effect really worth outweighing everything that I'm working for? If everything's going to be worth it in the end, who the fuck cares what's happening in the background?
Bingo. New timeline unlocked.
That's true.
Thank you for sharing that. One of the things that I've been working towards for my own self is I woke up today and I said, I am the version of me right now that has 100 sales of the blueprint. How do I think? How do I act? What do I do? What am I listening to? How am I carrying myself? And you getting into that frequency is going to draw that timeline to you. So I think for you, what I would say is, what is the highest version of yourself that you want to be at? So is it a money? Is it a financial number for you? Is it a feeling? Where would you feel like you were successful?
In 2 years from now, if I was making 15 grand a month, done. Easy. I'll take that. And if you could say in 2 years you're making 150 on your own money, completely location independent, easy. There's definitely a financial goal to it. As far as the role, if I'm going with this restaurant videography thing, which between you, me, and the wall, I think is the way to go. It is resonating with me the most. I just have such an internal battle of 30 things in the past that I've thought was the thing. But this does feel right, this thing, because it's practical. Like we talked about the other day, I'm already seeing real results from it. People are getting real value from it. The Milk Money video I posted that they accepted the collaboration on has more views than their last 17 videos. So there's practical evidence.
And what's the feeling that you get when you're doing this? Do you feel that sort of buzzing feeling like you're excited to do it and it lights you up?
Yeah, that's the second video that collaborated with me. So now if I look at 511 and Milk Money, it's my Instagram and theirs, Dillon Labs and Milk Money, and then Dillon Labs, like I'm starting to be a voice in the space. So it's really, I'm noticing traction here. So that's exciting. So to answer your question, the vision I'm getting at is to be the go-to videographer of restaurants. If I could be that, like, oh, call Jack. We have a new restaurant, call Jack. That would be a good goal.
I love this because you have a number, so 15K a month, and you want to be super passionate about what you're doing that also is serving a need in the market. So what if you imagined, okay, that version of me, and I'm the memory for that version of me? What would you be doing to not be the memory?
I'd be doing if I was that person. I would be creating incredibly good videos, high value videos that not only get good views, but get new people in the door, to the point where if you're opening a new restaurant and someone says, how do we be the best restaurant in Delray? You gotta call Jack. I provide that much value, whether it's cinematic, like tight editing, or just funny shit that people get that gets a lot of views. Just being the guy who knows the space.
Here you go.
That was pretty good.
So you're...
It moves with me.
No, but I think you already have the answers that you need. Just trust yourself with this. This has become Jack's personal therapy session. This is great because it's cool for me to be 38 and you're 28
in 2 weeks.
8 in 2 weeks. No, 1 week. You said 2 weeks last week.
April 21st. 28.
Is your birthday change? You're April 21st? I'm September 21st. I think that's 6 months apart.
Neither one of us had the solstice of the eclipse, though.
Exactly. We're on the cusp. I can totally relate to that because I used to get so frustrated when I was in my 20s of why don't I know what I want to do? And why is it not here? I needed to have all those experiences to get information. And listen, I am 38 and I'm just like, I think I fucking got it. And maybe I don't, but it's been such a great fucking journey. And I'm so excited. Do you know how many people like wish that they could do what we do? They don't know how to do that.
I agree.
Like what's so cool is I got to have a lazy morning today, but then when I got to fucking work, I was dialed in for 5-6 hours. People have to be at their desk from like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Fuck out of here. You know what I mean? And I'm doing more quality work because I'm dialed in and zoned in and I have a life that I want to have. Bro.
I agree.
You're creative, man. All right. I think we're getting towards the end here. We're just reaching about an hour, which is, it's gone by like that. I wanted to do a little reading because, again, this part of my life is just about connecting the spiritual with like your personal and your professional life with the spiritual. That's where it's at. So I got my rune. It's called the Viking Rune Tarot deck. And I wanted to channel a message out there for all the aspiring entrepreneurs. And Jack doesn't know tarot like I do, but I'm going to be sharing, and Jack will just give his thoughts on what the message is tonight. And we'll see what the message is for you guys. So if you're building something right now and you're at a little bit of a standstill and you don't know what's the next step, I got a little message for you. Let's see. All right. So our first one is the Eight of Pentacles. I'm going to have Jack take a look at it. So what the Eight of Pentacles typically means is working hard and staying the course. They're polishing in this photo. They're polishing and they're taking such reverence in the photo of working hard. Their heads are down. They're focused. So this is really a card for keep going. Don't give up. Keep polishing yourself. And I feel that's what you're doing right now.
It is 100%. Yeah, that's. I think that's completely where I'm at. This is pretty on the money because I know we can talk all day about where I want to be and what I want to do and who I want to become. The answer, when you break it down, is just reps and become that guy. So we talked about the other day, like if I need to make 100 fucking restaurant videos in order to be the guy who makes good restaurant videos, just reps. So this is fucking on the money.
What else do you need to know? We got the moon. Okay. So the moon typically means the subconscious and the sort of story behind the story. And in the moonlight, things have a very different look. They look otherworldly, or you sometimes have been on a date and you're like, wow, the vibe is so amazing. And it's nighttime and you're feeling that energy. There's a little bit of magic in your subconscious. And this is about dialing in and tuning in. And if you get a thought that you're like, I don't really know where that came from, but let me explore that, trust that it doesn't always have to make sense. So if you're out there and you're working hard on something, you're stuck, put it out there. Say, you know what? I want to figure out how to get unstuck. And maybe you'll get a piece of information that just you get downloaded, or maybe you'll see somebody, you'll try something. It's all about just putting it out there that you don't have to have the answer, but that the answer will come to you.
I think you're right.
Vibing. So for you, Jack, was there ever a moment where you're working on something that you felt like you were pushing yourself to figure it out, and then you realized if you could just loosen up the reins and the answer came to you?
My logical brain says no. My logical brain says in order to understand something, you just have to keep on running through the forest or climbing the mountain until you can see the top of the mountain and say, all right, that road was good. That road looks like it might be good. I think it is volume and reps, honestly.
Yeah, that's great but eventually you'll stumble on the right answer.
There's definitely faith involved. There's definitely faith that
but you trust yourself that you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So that's part of it, right? Is like just trusting that if you don't have the answer right now, it will come to you.
Yeah.
And that could be by keep dialing in, doing more reps, figuring it out, keep trying. Or it could be by maybe stepping away for a little bit and just being like, let me just give this a rest because I might come back to it with a fresh perspective.
I haven't intentionally let go of the reins and put faith in the process. But every time I do unintentionally, whether it's a vacation or a trip or something, or for some reason I'm just distracted, I always come back with a different perspective. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. And I think that's something that I've learned to do that I'm doing now is we take a break. And then I'm like, boom.
You've noticed
'cause I'm
that?
not
You-
100%.
100% actually tangibly notice that by you taking a break and taking a step back and taking a day off or whatever time period off, that you come back with either a fresh perspective or more energy or something?
Hell yeah. 100%.
Never done that.
But I didn't have that when I was doing Roxfire. I thought I needed to work all the time, every day. And now I'm like, listen, I work every day, but I'm much kinder, more gentle with myself. If I'm like, I need the afternoon off, I'm just going to take a break. I'm not going to look at it. And then I'll come back to it. And I'm like, okay, now it makes sense to me.
Should I try it?
All it is trusting that if you don't have the answer right now, pushing really hard isn't necessarily going to give you the answer.
I don't know. I haven't experienced that. Maybe I'm 27, but
You are wise beyond your years, my friend. All right. And one more. We'll see what this last card has to say. The Hanged Man.
oh,
So this is an interesting card. It is a man that's basically hung upside down. The idea, if you distill it down about what the Hanged Man means, is you are in a pause. So even like we were talking about right now, if you're in a situation where you don't have the idea and you don't know, don't resent or be frustrated by the fact that you don't know. There's something that you've got to learn and integrate and understand before the solution will come to you to go to the next place. So this is a card really about being where you are and trusting that you're there for a reason. So like I was sharing, I was like, these ads aren't resonating. These ads aren't resonating. And I'm like, oh, okay. What are ones that are resonating? Maybe we take a break. We unalive those babies of the ones that aren't working and we focus in to the ones that really are. And it's now I feel like I've got forward momentum again. It's just like accepting where you are. Has there been a situation recently where you just didn't know what to do and you just took a pause?
in relationships I have, and I'm definitely much more nebulous on my understanding of the right partner. I know what makes money, what to work on. I'm very logical like that. But with women and relationships, there's so much more feeling and there's so much less A plus B equals C. You have to trust the process. You have to trust your intuition. And there's a lot more in play when it comes to the relationships world that by letting go and just seeing where the chips fall. Perfect example, if you want to be tangible, is saying, if I'm trying to make plans or if I want to make something work, let me step back and see if they come to me, see just where fate puts us. So definitely in relationships, I've noticed that you have to let go and see where things fall. Not so much in business, not so much in like fitness, ambition, but happiness, yes.
I hope you guys got something out of that. I thought I'd bring something a little spicy, a little bit different, and close with a tarot reading. So tell me, my friend, first of all, you've been great to talk to today. I feel like we went even deeper than we did last time, so I'm pretty pumped. We got some good stuff here. Thank you for joining me on this and doing this with me. This was instructive for me. But if people want to know more about you and your entrepreneur journey, where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, most of my stuff is on my Instagram, Dillon Labs. So it's my last name, DILLONLABS. I am the #1 restaurant videographer in South Florida. If you open a new one, call me. I'll hook you up.
And this has been LJ with Alchemy After Dark. I will see you guys real soon.